And welcome to the deal room today. Today, we're going to talk about beating the clock, especially when it comes to protecting your equity in light of a foreclosure. And I have Gennady Krivoy joining me here from Royal LePage, otherwise known as the Healthy Home Realtor. All right, welcome to the show again.
Thank you. Thank you. All
All
right.
right,
So yeah, this is
what
a
are
big,
some
big
of your
topic.
thoughts of, yeah,
Uh, well, I mean, this is a big, big topic, that we've had a lot of experience with lately, fortunately, unfortunately, because just the nature of this issue. So we want to speak to people who may be facing or are afraid they might be facing this foreclosure issue soon to try to simplify it and make some solutions and navigate how to get through this.
absolutely. And that's our whole point today. In fact, we're going to bring up a little screenshot here and just outline this a little bit. So again, everyone who's joining us here today, if you're in a foreclosure or if you're potentially facing a foreclosure or if you're thinking a foreclosure might happen to you, you're in the right place. If you're feeling the pressure of even a mortgage renewal, that's perfectly normal. You're not alone. The Bank of Canada projected that about 60% of mortgage holders in this country through 25 and 2026 will face a significant payment shock of some kind. So for some, the shock is absorbable, and for others, unfortunately, it can trigger a foreclosure process. But the main thing to keep in mind that is that in British Columbia, like a foreclosure isn't an overnight eviction, right, Gennady?
Yeah, that's the key thing. It's not, that's a good way to put it. It's not an overnight eviction. If you miss a payment or two payments or three payments, even if you get a letter from the bank or a lawyer saying some words like foreclosure, it does not mean you're going to get evicted right away.
Right. Now, it's more of a supervised process from what I understand. I mean, certainly if you do miss mortgage payments, the moments that you do miss those mortgage payments, the lender will file some kind of a petition in the BC Supreme Court, but it's certainly not an overnight eviction like a lot of people might think. Um, you're not going to be thrown out on the gravel, so to speak. You do have options to protect your equity. So why don't we talk a little bit about this process? So so what so what happens here first, Gennady? What's the first step?
Yeah. So yeah, we can get into all the legal stuff as well, but
Yeah.
I want to try to because I'm on the ground, you know what I mean? Like at the dinner tables, like meeting with the people who are going through this, or as you know, sometimes we get referrals from lawyers who have been approached by um, homeowners asking for some legal advice. It's a stressful process, right? Like that's the main thing to kind of understand that when people, it's their home and they feel that all of a sudden they might lose their home. Uh, they go into a process a lot of times where like they panic and they almost don't want to do anything or just want to avoid it, and um, they need some kind of guidance to get through the initial steps to be proactive rather than reactive. So yeah, good. Like you said, in BC, it is like a supervised process. That's a good way to put it. It does go over a lengthy period of time, and there are ways uh, to save your home right during that process. So, I mean, where does it start? I mean, a lot of times, so like you said, a lot of people are going to face foreclosure. What's the word you use? Foreclosure, payment shock, right? Like of interest rates have gone up. If you're renewing, or maybe someone's still in a long-term mortgage, but maybe they lost their job or their income has been reduced, and as a result, they missed a payment or two. So, where does it start? Very simple. Usually, you miss a payment. The bank calls, says, "What happened? Can you pay?" Um, at that point, it also depends how the homeowner is responding. If they're proactive, if they know they're going to miss a payment, for example, They can call ahead and say, "Hey, I'm going to miss a payment," and sometimes they can even get a deferred payment, right? James, like a lot of mortgage products have that. People don't know about that,
Yeah,
so
and
right away, yeah,
for sure. And sometimes it's an alarming demand letter that comes in. The bank usually just asks for the full balance. And I mean, without knowing your true options, with, the right legal advice, the right advice from a mortgage broker like myself or you as a realtor, you're standing alone on an island, and this storm is coming at you, and you feel like all this pressure is against you. But there are options. There are ways to negotiate with the bank, even through a lawyer, or setting up a refinancing strategy. I mean, there are solutions to this. I mean, even though we have an eroding market at the moment with market values, there may still be enough equity for you to, you know, still retain ownership of your home, and just take one step to the left before you take one step to the right, where you're back on track after resolving all of this. That's what
yeah,
we
yeah.
specialize in here. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. So the technical stuff, but also the emotional stuff, because it is a very like, emotional process for people. So um, I guess one thing I'll say now, and I think we'll probably repeat it over again, is to be proactive. Don't wait for the banks to or the lawyers to start sending letters and making demands. So first step, again, if someone feels like they're not going to be able to make a mortgage payment, they should notify their bank first before the period comes up, and say, in a lot of cases, the bank will appreciate that and say, fine, you have an extra month. In fact, I have a client right now uh, in this process. He contacted his bank and they gave him 3 months, 3 months of
Yeah.
no payments, right?
Yeah.
Um, so he was so happy about that, right? So we have his property for sale. Obviously, there's still going to be interest accruing. He'll have to pay that interest at the end upon the sale, but he's got 3 months of relief, right? That he was able to achieve just by contacting the bank before the missed payment.
Yeah.
Now, so let's say, okay, you missed the first payment. Even if you contacted the bank, if it gets to like a second payment, then obviously the letters will be more um, demanding, right? They'll say like they might even say like you suggested, pay the full amount. That can happen, right? So that's usually when people get the most nervous right away because they're like, well, how am I going to, obviously, if I can't make one payment, how am I going to pay the whole amount, right? So this is the best time if they haven't contacted their mortgage broker or realtor. Um, this is the time to do it. To get some assistance. So I guess we'll look through this slide now. It segues into this timeline chart that we have here. Um, so right at the beginning, that months 1 to 3, that's when the demand comes from the banks, and the petition is referring to uh, it's a petition to the court. So basically, the bank says, okay, you've missed 2, 3 payments. We don't think you can make the payment now, and they want to start the process to get the foreclosure happening. Yeah, and so the supervised process that you mentioned. So the first thing is called a petition to the court to get conduct of sale, which basically means the bank is going to start to apply to take over the property. But that does not happen right away. The first thing that happens, they go to the court. The homeowner gets served with a notice, so they know when the court date is going to happen. Um, but basically, the bank says to their lawyer, "We want to file this petition." The court will almost always approve it, unless the homeowner has the money. But most of the time, the court will just approve that petition, and then it starts this period called your redemption period. So this is a very important period. This is basically your time that you have to get out, to save the property, to refinance the property, sell the property, but the homeowner still has control.
Yes.
That's key. That's very key. Um, so where do we go from there,
And
right?
and
Like,
and a lot of times in that 6 month period, you might be looking at this overwhelming mortgage balance that you have, say, secured at whatever your rate was. Maybe it was maybe in the threes, maybe in the fours. But what a lot of people don't realize is that for a few bucks more a month, we can set you up with an alternative lender. Sure, the interest might be half a percentage, maybe three quarters of a percentage, or 1.5 percentage points higher with a different lender, an alternative lender. They're not a private lender, but they're definitely a great alternative lender. And the alternative is, um, get into some new financing that pays off the first mortgage, the lender in first position, so that you can continue to retain ownership, enjoy the privileges of your home. And obviously, once that term ends and things start looking a little bit better, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, we can take you back to that kind of a lender where we're getting you a great prime rate. So this isn't the end of anything. It's an actual perfect opportunity to decide what you're going to do. And maybe you've just had it. Maybe you just are just thinking like, okay, like we can't handle a mortgage anymore. We need to sell. This is our decision. Or maybe you can refinance. But it's a great opportunity that the court extends to individual and partners who are owning
Yeah,
real
yeah.
estate. It's yeah, for sure.
Like and just to kind of put a big picture to simplify it, like the courts and the banks, they're not excited about the process of foreclosures and having to sell real estate. Um, Banks like to loan money. Like
Yeah,
that's their main thing,
yeah,
right?
100%.
Courts are an administrative function just to get transactions, approved. So the idea of they just want to get their money somehow, and then they'll leave you alone, right? That's the main thing. So having the alternative lender option achieves that, right? Even if you get a temporary financing from another lender, what happens is the first position lender gets paid, and then the whole court process stops. The redemption period is satisfied. The court process stops because the original mortgage holder gets their payment. So that's very important to understand that it basically gets the bank off your back, right? Now, you mentioned, yeah, the interest rates might be a bit higher. Almost for sure they're going to be a bit higher, but at least the homeowner, still has some time. Now they have time to breathe and without fear of legal repercussions or evictions or anything like that. Um, this can be very valuable. I've seen this many times because sometimes people they might have money coming from somewhere else that they're waiting for, or they've sold another property, or maybe their intention was to sell their current property. And now, with that bank being off their back, they can sell their property more peacefully without as much pressure. And obviously, it could be more money for them in the end. So, with working with you, James, and that's usually that's the first option we want to present to people in the solution, right? To
Yeah,
save your home,
yeah,
It's-
100%.
right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, you've been living in that home for however many years, 15, 20 years. Economic and political circumstances have changed for the worst, and you've done everything right. You've made mortgage payments all these years, and just because the external environment has changed doesn't mean that your internal environment needs to uh, be under a loss of control. You can retain ownership of your home, yeah, live there comfortably, pay a few bucks more a month. Sometimes the difference between where you're at now and where you're going to go with an alternative lender might be 200-300 bucks, 400 bucks a month. But it's certainly a better alternative than facing loss of control after a complete 9-month cycle. And at the start of the 10th month is total loss of control, where the lender takes the ownership and they need to force the sale,
exactly. Yeah,
and
exactly.
your equity gets wiped out. It's just not a good story. So we always offer the first and prioritized option of how can we retain your home if that's what you want to
Yep.
do.
Exactly, exactly. And most of the time, that's what people would prefer to do. Like they don't want to sell. They're just being potentially forced to do so because of the foreclosure situation. So the redemption period, like you said, is typically around 6 months. The most it'll be is 9 months. So that's why, when you get past the initial demand letter period, 1 or 2 months plus 9 months. So yeah, around the 10th month is when it gets bad in the
Yeah,
sense like you can lose control.
exactly.
Uh,
And
when the redemption period expires, the bank says we're done, and they have the legal authority to take control of the property. They bring in their own realtor. That's very important.
yeah,
They bring in their own realtor. That realtor represents the bank, not the homeowner. And their goal is basically to sell the property for enough to cover the loan. And they could care less about any equity remaining for the homeowner. So that's why the timeline is very, very key.
exactly. What would you say to the people who are maybe in that situation right now? They're delaying, they're procrastinating. They may even understand about some of these equity preservation strategies that we're talking about, where you can refinance and still hold on to your home, but the math is just screwing them up, and they're just thinking, gee, I can't afford another $400 a month or $200 a month or whatever because of the high cost of living. What would you say to those people in terms of the high cost of waiting?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, more waiting means more cost, no matter which way you look at it.
Yeah,
Um, and if the situation is that unsustainable, really where like they cannot make the payments, or the equity position is not strong enough, or if they've tried to do some other lending, like if you try to bring them another lender and they're not qualified for whatever reason, then very simple. It's better to know that fact, as hard as it is to accept, to know that sooner than later.
yeah. And the number one thing I would tell people is that these equity preservation strategies do exist, and you're not going to find them. Like if you're at a prime lender, one of the big six, and you think you can just go off to another big six bank, you're it's going to stop you. You're dead
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah,
They're not they're not going to even think about taking on the file, not even for a second, because their standards are just so high. You need to contact a mortgage broker as soon as possible to start looking at advanced strategies and alternative lenders to get you out of this high cost of waiting. Not only is it going to cost you loss of control, but it's going to cost you a ton of legal. Um, and who
yeah,
knows? There might not
yeah.
even be enough equity to pay off the lawyers at the end of the
Yeah,
sale.
the legal stuff, right?
Yeah,
That's another
yeah,
cost of waiting, by
yeah,
the way, is
yeah.
once the bank starts to hire a lawyer to do stuff for them, well, who's going to be paying for that,
Mounting legal costs for each
right?
lender involved. If you've got two or three
Yeah,
mortgages, guess what? All of those lenders have lawyers. They're all stacking the fee right on your head,
yeah,
right
yeah.
on
And
top.
like ballpark, like a
Yeah,
typical
yeah,
amount, if it's gone to the point where the lawyers have gone to court and filed that petition and done documents for the lender, like
yeah.
already you're looking at minimum 10 grand.
Oh, easily,
10, right? Like
easily, easy.
per lender, right?
Yeah,
So, and that's going to be tacked on to the end that the homeowner eventually has to pay. So, again, a very important reason to not let it get to that point where there's legal fees, where the lender has to pay their lawyer to do stuff, um, to reduce the overall cost. Now, yeah, I mean, eventually, like in some cases, it's going to be the case where just mathematically it's not feasible to retain the property, or it's just uh, the ability to secure another mortgage, even through a private lender, even at a high interest rate, is just it's not going to work. And like I know you've gone through processes, like I know you don't leave any stone unturned, right? Like if there's any chance to get financing uh, from anywhere, private B lenders, you'll find it, right? But if
And
there isn't
yeah,
ultimately,
yeah,
and it comes to that fact, well, then selling is the only feasible option
yeah. And
for
on my end, it's pretty simple. With one simple phone call, one application, we can start having conversations with different lenders about your file, and that's all it is a couple of phone calls and looking into some of the policies and things like that, and figure out where your best options are. Because right now, if you're out on the street and you're looking at the big six, there is absolutely no option.
Yeah,
Um,
no, because they only the big six, they just like easy applications.
well, yeah,
They don't want. That's it,
as
right?
soon as you've missed a mortgage payment, you've already broken their default policies. So you're dead in the water before you even open the front door. Those big six. So you have to really reach out to a mortgage broker like myself and figure out, let me figure out with you all of the options. And I like to present two or three options to people so that they know, they want to be in this for another year. Do they want to go to an alternative for maybe 2 or 3 years to help, repair their situation, repair their credit, things like that. But in short, you got two strategies really: refinance and redeem, or take the conduct of sale from the bank and maximize your own market value and retained retained
Yes.
profit from the sale of your home.
Yeah, and that's key. So if now if we have to shift to strategy number two, where
Yeah,
basically the homeowner sells the property while they still have control of the property, then they can hire me or another any other agent to work on their behalf, you know, to maximize the sale and like when I'm in these situations, uh, even just dealing with the lawyers is a stressful thing. So that's something we can do to help them um, not have to deal with the stress of dealing with the lawyers. So communication is a key part of it. Like I said, generally banks, they don't want to go into the foreclosure process if they can see the potential of the home being sold during the redemption period. Generally, they're going to be okay with that. They're
yeah,
not going to oppose that, right?
yeah.
They want to get paid. They want to clear off. They see it as a bad debt on their books. Obviously, they want to clear that off. It doesn't look good for.
Lowest possible cost to them without legal fees. So
Right,
they're all
right.
for it. In fact,
Yeah,
everyone involved is really rooting for the homeowner. There's no doubt
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
No one wants to see, you know, an added cost of more interest
yeah,
and more legal fees taken from
yeah.
the whatever we can get out of the home when it sells, right?
Or
So
worse, no one wants to see a negative equity position,
absolutely
right? If
not.
they
Yeah.
right, well,
Yeah.
uh,
It
the
does happen
lender,
though.
it does happen. If the
Yeah.
lender gets to a point where they see there's a certain amount on the mortgage plus all the legal stuff that's kind of built up on it, and if it gets more than the home is worth, they're not happy about that either. They don't want that to happen. So like I said, it's in everyone's interest to get at that. If it's mathematically not possible to retain the home uh, with financing, then putting it for sale at the earliest opportunity is the best option. And to communicate that with the lender and the lender's lawyer, saying, okay, the property is going for sale for this date on this price, and the lenders will usually be very okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll say like, okay, they might have certain deadlines. They might say, okay, we'll give you a month, 2 months. They want updates, which is fine. But that's what we do, right? So then this is a key thing because again, back to the homeowner, they still have control. They have someone representing them, taking care of them, and dealing with the stressful stuff of the lawyers and actually selling the property. So at any point uh, during the redemption period, if the property sells or if we can get an accepted offer, it stops the clock. It stops the process, and the court wants that to happen. The banks want that to happen. So getting it sold during that period of time will make all the problems go away.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So if it's the case, let's just play it out a bit more because I've seen this happen too. Like, because the market is still kind of tough out there, right? Like
Hmm.
sometimes like properties can be sold. I mean, it can take longer to sell. Another element is once the court files the initial petition to get conduct of the sale, that's registered on the title,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that will show, it won't show the details. It'll say certificate of pending litigation,
Yeah. Just
which
yeah.
which basically means like the bank has filed some legal action. Now, um, if you're a buyer and you see things like that, um, they might think, wait, is this a foreclosure? Is there enough money to clear it? Um, so it's a little harder to negotiate a sale when that charge is on the title.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Doesn't it actually work out better for the buying party at that point when they see something like that?
Yeah, and they can. I had a deal recently, real deal, where it was someone going into foreclosure. We put it for sale, and we were aware of the charges on the title, and then we actually got an accepted offer at a pretty good price. But we were not in a position. It wasn't enough to clear off all the charges. And as realtors, like we have a very strong legal obligation to make sure that the title can be cleared of all the financial charges. A sale cannot be approved and there still be um, mortgage amounts payable or legal fees payable.
Hmm.
So when it gets to that situation, the deal basically has to collapse. It cannot go through, which puts again the homeowner in a worse situation. Um, but if there is enough equity, um, and it takes longer than the redemption period. This is kind of a last sort of Hail Mary kind of uh, attempt to save the property and or retain the equity. If the redemption period expires, and if the bank takes control, and if they put their own realtor, their own listing, and it's for sale through the bank's realtor, um, the homeowner still has an opportunity to redeem the mortgage. If somehow, if somehow they can come back to you as the financing option. If some up until the last moment before the completion of the sale, if they can somehow redeem the mortgage,
Yes.
either through refinancing or they get a chunk of money from somewhere else, they can keep their property.
Yeah. It could be a redemption of investments. It could be a gift from a wealthy family member.
Yeah.
Could
I
be.
think, didn't you? I
Could
remember
be.
you just recently you had a case, someone going to foreclosure within their family saved them at the last moment. That was
Yeah.
that house in Vancouver,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yes, it was. Yes.
yeah,
In that specific case, the individual was in this exact process, and he was facing loss of control of his home, and we were able to establish an amazing option for him to hold on to his home with an approval. We got that done quickly in less than 48 hours. In fact, relieving all of his stress, and at the very last moment, he was able to come up with enough money
from
to.
his parents, right? From his parents' equity in the
Yes,
property.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. They
yeah,
were able to
yeah,
leverage that property in order to pay off the lenders on his existing property and continue on with the mortgage there. So, you're not in it alone. You're never on an island, even though the storm is coming right at you. There are a lot of safeguards in place. There's a lot of options, a lot of creative options that we have on our end. And a lot of people don't realize that even if you're a little bit older and you think, well, gee, I don't have a job, I won't qualify for a mortgage, it doesn't matter. come talk to me. We still have ways of getting you approved under certain programs where we can use the equity in your home to create what's called an optional payment mortgage, where you don't actually have to have a stiff mortgage payment every month. We can actually use the equity in your home to give you a giant lump sum payment, or even have the home pay you on a monthly basis. So you're not stuck in foreclosure, certainly not at the end. And I'm so glad we took the time today to go through these options, because I don't know that a lot of people understand to the depth and measure that we do on just how much we've been able to help people in this market, and how much more help is available um, down
Yeah.
down into 2026, the last half, plus all of 2027. We're expecting even more foreclosures, uh, very unfortunately, but we're here to help.
Yeah. I think it's it's hard to find reliable statistics about foreclosures right now. Um, and I know my I think there's a reason why it might be hard to find, if you know what I mean. Like, there's certain groups that don't want that to necessarily be so well known. But purely just from boots on the ground experience, like dealing with a lot of people, my feeling is about as much as 20%. I feel it's as much as 20% of homeowners right now or in the next year to 18 months will be facing some kind of foreclosure or fear of foreclosure.
Yes.
Compared to historical amounts, that's like historical foreclosures are like under 5%. You
Well,
know, like it's 4 or 5%, right? So if it's literally 4 or 5 times more than historical amounts, that shows a lot about what's happening in the economy, and that people, again, they're not alone. And like we've dealt with it, like we've most of our work on the residential side the past couple of years has been this kind of stuff, right?
yes, yes.
And it doesn't, unfortunately, it's not going away. The economy stuff that's creating these conditions, and um, the courts are getting more full of these petitions and these conduct of sale applications. Um, yeah,
It's going to multiply,
gonna
because in
multiply.
2021, 2022, you know, even 2020, obviously, we had these three years of sky high house prices at low interest rates. Everyone bought
Right.
in, and
Hmm.
they they relied on what the government told them, that interest rates were
Hmm.
going to stay low for a very long time. And the government, unfortunately, wasn't able to see that through. And we've seen an upturn of interest rates. Now you take that, considering the high prices that were paid for these homes, and we're seeing some people with 2 or 3 times more of a mortgage payment on their books every month. That is really a concern. So we're here to help, guys. There is time, and there's time to beat the clock, and there's a way to get you out of a foreclosure into an alternative situation and back to where you were in a year or two. Protect your equity, um, even though there's a lot of pressure. There's ways of dealing with it, and don't let a lender asking full payment right now deter you in any way from reaching out to a licensed mortgage broker or realtor. You've got options to sell. You've got options to refinance.
100%, 100%. And like I said, step one is always to try to save the home, refinance. That's understandable. But step two, to sell it, if we have to sell it, you want to have control. You want to maximize the equity, and if there's enough equity, there's even potential maybe to buy something else,
100%.
right?
Yeah,
To buy something else, obviously at a lower price point, maybe downsizing. But to be a buyer in this market with cash, awesome.
we
You
have
can. You
Yeah,
know, you can.
as long as you have, usually if you have 20% or more in that situation, we're a go.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not the end of the world. Or I've had other people that maybe just want to rent for a while, right? Until they stabilize their situation. You know, you cash out, get the bank off your back, and then rent even a nice place. You know, even because rental rates have gone down too. By the way, like as much as like the prices of real estate has gone down, rental rates have gone down too.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity. And
You
you
know, so
sit
you
low
could
for a
rent a
few
nice.
years and
Yeah,
and let the go that I just mentioned be an even bigger go a few more years from now when your credit repairs a little bit more, you've got more
yeah,
savings, you might even see prices fall and there's opportunities to buy some really
exactly,
amazing properties
exactly,
out there with some great discount.
exactly. So I think it's good. I'm glad we had this conversation. I think this is it's we've had this conversation countless times with clients and potential clients,
Yeah,
but it's good to kind of package it here. Um,
absolutely.
I, Thanks for taking the time to put this together. That slide was a very good presentation of it, and we're here to help.
All right.
So reach us, James Park, and
All
my name's
right.
Gennady Krivoy, Healthy Homes Realtor. Our contact information will be here for you.
Yeah, we'll have it in the comments. Click the link
Yeah.
below this video, wherever it is, and we'll be there for you guys. Thanks again
Okay.
for joining me in the deal room, and
Awesome.
uh, let's help you beat the clock.
Excellent. Thank you, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.